So hello everyone, I'm Michelle Adams with ProWritingAid. It's so nice to see you all here today for another session of self-editing school. We're here with our favorite editing expert, JoEllen Nordström. Last month she was here for some editor speed dating, which was super fun. So tell us all about what you have planned for us today, JoEllen.
Well, since we're talking about speed dating and you're looking for that perfect relationship with your editor, the next step would be identifying red flags. So basically, we're talking about the 5 warning signs, and actually there's way more than 5. I ended up with 10, but it just worked out that way. But it's good to know the warning signs and if the editor is wrong for you. So again, it's just being that nice girlfriend to say, you know what? Maybe this isn't the right one for you. Keep going, keep going. There's more out there. So that's what we were talking about today. I have my screen. Should I go ahead and start sharing?
Yep, go ahead. I'm just going to go off camera and learn with everyone else.
Well, let's hope all goes well here. All right, let's see. 1 second. Let me look at my view. Oh no. All right. So basically we're looking at, everyone can see my screen, it's fine there. We are looking at the 5 signs that your editor is wrong for you. And basically we're going to start with self-editing, since that's what self-editing school is all about. We want to make sure that you're looking at the essential story elements. If you're dealing with fiction, we're going to talk about your manuscript, how you should review that and self-edit. Before you start looking for an editor, you really want to do as much as you can and go ahead and dig in and do the self-editing that we've been talking about. There's loads and loads of videos all down the pages from the self-editing school that you can look at. There's lots on the ProWritingAid's the YouTube channel. There's also loads of blog posts that we've done in accompanying with that. So, and we also have the ebook that you can check out. So please get familiar with self-editing and the process, and it'll be a little bit easier for you to communicate and discuss the issues that you have or the things that interest you or the challenges that you face with your editor, and that'll make it a lot easier. So you just want to make sure once you have that common foundation and you know what you're going to be discussing with your editor, then you can basically communicate more clearly and help them understand what you do know and what you don't know. So they'll help you through that. And they're going to look at it from a high perspective, how to organize and structure it all overall through the line, the style, the content, the continuity, the clarity, and all that, and all the way down to the copy editing, which you've been learning with the ProWritingAid tool. And basically your editor is going to look at your total overall objectives as an author, as your book, what the blurbs promises have been made, and then making sure that you are engaging with the audience in the way that you think you are, or in the way that you want to. So ProWritingAid self-tool is going to help you structure it. And, you know, I think I'm preaching to the choir here, but take a look at that and see how it works. I do like to put this little screen up there to remind you that there's 25 different reports, and the more you like that or dig into it, a little bit easier it is to deal with your editor. If you're not into the reports, you can go straight to an editor, and we're always glad to help you out. So it's up to you. It can be do it yourself or do it for you. So finish up that final copy editing and self-editing again and again and again. Use the tool so that you've done as much as you can, so that when you hire a professional editor, which again is the largest investment you're going to make in your book, that you're getting the best return on your investment by having them look at the larger, more important structural style issues, as opposed to just the small commas and syntax issues that can be resolved more or less by the artificial intelligence that we have out there, the tools, the apps, etc. So run a report, and then you want to contact that professional for your final edit. You just want to click the button inside ProWritingAid. It's along the side there, little person, and you can click on that, and then you will connect with First Editing, and we'll be glad to help you if you like that. Or, you know, do a search out there. You are more than welcome to look for the best editor that fits you, because, you know, one size does not fit all, and we're very aware of that. So your editor, we're going to go through 10 pieces here. what is your editor? Your editor is wrong for you if, one, they have no knowledge in your subject matter. That means that they don't have a clue in terms, if you're writing romance, you don't want a fiction, you don't want a sci-fi person in there. You want to make sure that somebody understands that outline. So again, and if it's outside of fiction, you want to know that they're familiar with submitting to a journal, that if they're doing nonfiction, that they are familiar with motivation, inspiration, or educational types of writing and how that's presented. Number two, the editor is wrong for you if they have no experience editing. Don't be the guinea pig. We'll go into this a little bit deeper. I'm just going to go down the top 10 first, and then we're going to dig a little bit deeper for you, for those of you who have questions, and please submit them as we go along. Number three, the editor is wrong for you if they're not an expertise or knowledgeable overall in the editing stages or the process of editing. And why I mention this is there will be a lot of fellow writers out there, fellow beta readers, who say, oh, I can do that for you. No, not really. There's a difference. That's why we have specialties in the world. Otherwise, we could all do everything. I could go out and build a deck and do heart surgery the next day. But that's not the way it is. We all specialize because we want the best person to work on this. And believe me, again, you want to have somebody who can serve you best. Think of how many hours and how much energy you put into this manuscript. So let's make sure that you give it the respect that it deserves at this time and take the extra moments to really do that. An editor is wrong for you if they don't have any training or certification. We'll talk a little bit about what's out there now. There is so much more technology and information than we've ever had before in the world. And what that means is that your expectations and your skill demands should be higher because it's capable now to really give you the best. And you should have that. So 5, editor is wrong for you if they don't have any samples of their work. You're gonna hear them go, oh, I have the non-disclosure agreements, I have to honor their confidentiality. I can't really do that. No. They should be able to give you references. They should be able to show you examples, and they should be able to provide an example of their work on your writing. Regardless, you should be able to see something. Don't buy the mystery editor. So editor is wrong for you if they don't have a standard operating procedure. They can't clearly tell you how it's going to work, what you're going to get, what you could expect, how much you're going to pay, when you're going to get it, all of that. Warning, big red flags going off there. So again, be aware of that. Your editor is wrong for you. Number 7, if there is no guarantee for the services provided. And there can be lots of different ways to look at that guarantee in terms of satisfaction, in terms of when it's going to be delivered, et cetera. And we'll go into that in just a moment. Number 8, the editor is wrong for you if they don't have any established prices. I mean, you should be able to get a rough idea of how much you're getting into. If you can't afford them, then maybe you just want to spend that time moving along, because you should have a clear idea of what the expense is going to be and how you're going to be charged. So, if you're paying by the hour, you want to make sure you know how much that's going to end up in the end. Editor is wrong for you if they don't have any timelines for delivery. And I find this is just a personal thing for me, but we really pride ourselves on delivering on time and letting you move along. Because I think the longer amount of time we allot for a task, it will naturally fill that. It's kind of blob. It's an amoeba-like situation that just kind of fills up that area. If you allow a year for the editing, it'll take a year. If you allow, 3 months for the editing, it'll take 3 months. If you allow a month for the editing, it can still happen. And if you've got the right person, they can provide the services in a much more efficient time. And the reason why a professional will do that is because it is a business and they need to feed their families, etc. Lastly, the number 10, and again, we're not done, we're just getting started. The editor is wrong for you if they don't have a bedside manner. And I talk about this as a professional. You want somebody who's going to come and do the right thing. And what this means is, do you guys click? You know, last month we did the speed dating for an editor. It's really, really important that you trust them and that they respect you, because there is a energy that passes back and forth. And the more that you understand what they're doing and trust them, even if you don't agree, that's totally fine. If you can get the answers that you can respect why they're making these suggestions, you will have a much better experience. And regardless, your manuscript will be stronger because you're making conscious choices based upon a educated and knowledgeable foundation behind you, and a guide who really cares about how it looks in the end and how they look. Because if they're given credit for editing this book on your behalf and it comes out poorly, it's not just a poor reflection on you, it's a poor reflection on the editor themselves. So those are your top 10. Now let's dig in a little bit deeper. Remember, you can drop questions as we go along. I'll try to take a look there as we pop through, and we'll figure these out. So let's go on. The reason why we've done this today is basically, it's not just finding out what's wrong and saying, oh, avoid that. It's really helping you to find an editor for you and for your book. Now, your book has certain needs, you have certain needs and desires, and then there are certain standards that must be met. And there are actual laws and rules and regulations, you know, within syntax that must happen. So it's a combination of all these things, and you really want to make sure that it is the best presentation in the end. So we're looking at this in the terms of what's wrong, what are the red flags, and how do you locate or make sure or test the person in advance? You know, it's really knowing, doing that kind of background check on the person that you're about to engage with, and hopefully have a long-term, not just this book, but a very long-term writing relationship with. I would say so many of our editors here, they come back and they have clients who return again, 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 because as they do, you know, not only another book, but maybe a press release or an autobiography or a blurb or whatever they're doing, whatever they're writing, their websites, their blogs, anything that they're putting out there in the public in English, they trust this editor who knows them and knows their writing and knows their style and knows their audience and knows their intent and desires. So it's a really good trust that's built again and again, and we're there to help you step by step. So let me explain to you how that works. We mentioned first that the editor is wrong for you if they have no knowledge in your subject matter. And I'm using this across the board because it's not just fiction and having a romance editor. It's also the subject in terms of, you know, if you're doing nonfiction, if you're doing academic, you're doing research, whatever you may be doing, and also knowing your audience that. So there's different types of writing styles, but there's also the genres and the subgenres within those. And if they're familiar with the editor that, or sorry, the author that you aspire to be, and they understand the audience and who reads the books and how long the books are, and you know how engaged and what the expectations of your readers are, because really the book is all about your readers, and we got to make sure that we're living up to the promises that we make. So it's about the contents and the topics inside, and even if it's a research that you're presenting your platform, and then you're supporting it, and you know what your readers, what your audience, what your peers are looking for in this specific genre or type of writing, and how we're going to do that. And ultimately, it all comes down to the audience. So you may enjoy writing, but you really want to make sure that other people enjoy writing, and that's thinking about engaging and writing for your readers again and again. So, and they need to have this knowledge of the subject matter from the editing perspective, which naturally wraps into the publishing perspective of, as I mentioned, who's going to do that. So the ideal qualifications are having degrees or backgrounds, if they need that in that particular one, that they are always professionally trained. Again, you have a PhD who is working in a hard science is doing the right ones. And, you know, if you're doing a children's book, that you have somebody who is familiar with that and feels confident in presenting that. They should know your genre, your subgenre, how it's presented, what it looks like, how it feels, etc. And Amazon is a wealth of information there. Publishing experience is always a big plus, and what we seek here from our editors. And they need to have those past references, and they should be quite proud. There's no doubt when you're paying the money to engage in a professional editor, that you really want to know that you've got the right one. And, you know, that's what it's based upon. What's their history? What's their experience? And if not, what kind of backing are you going to get? We'll get to that satisfaction. We talked about the guarantee. So, and the most important is the audience. So this editor is going to know what you are talking about without a question in terms of the topic, the genre, the subject matter. And they want to know who you're talking to, the audience, the avid readers, who is, you know, if you have a built-in audience, they should naturally know what is expected and demanded from them. And they know why you want to convey this information. And we often, sometimes I think we overlook that. And it's very important, you know, why are you writing the book? All right, you know, when we talk about this specifically with nonfiction, is it to be an expert in the field? Is it to share your knowledge? Is it to inspire people? As fiction, are you telling a story? Are you sharing an emotion? What are you doing? How are you capturing that? You know, academics, how are you conveying your research and your knowledge out there? And who needs to be the ones to naturally follow along and buy in, believe, understand, and trust you, because it is a trust factor as we're going along there. And then they know how you need to convey this. And that's from training and knowledge and experience through the years. So somebody who says, oh, I wrote a book, I can edit yours, they don't have the knowledge, experience, and background and training to do that. They just don't. So be careful as you do that. So if they're going to edit for your genre, they need to know the expectations of the audience, how to engage them, and basically fulfill the promises. And the promises are coming from your blurb, your book jacket, etc., etc., etc. So I hope that is getting us onto there. We're digging deep, and we have 10. So I'm going to make sure we have time for these questions and that we're not missing anything. Let me see here. Okay, so we're going to keep going here a little bit. I see your questions. We're going to come right back to them. All right. All right, move that over there. So number 2, the editor is wrong for you if they have no experience in editing. And this is a professional editor. I wouldn't tell you less. And I think the biggest thing that worries me nowadays is there's so many freelancers out there and everyone has to start somewhere. I understand that. I really, really do. But there are people who have worked for years, who have a really solid foundation, who have experience and training, and they're available. So why let somebody else cut their teeth on your work there? Let me see here. So make sure they have this experience in editing. We vet all of our editors because it's just not fair to you to make promises and then not be able to fulfill it. So editors should know your genre, your audience, and your goals as a writer. Is it to be a bestseller? Is it to be the most knowledgeable? Is it to share a memoir with your family? There's different people doing different things for different reasons, but as long as the editor knows this, they can help you achieve those goals, because the experience of a professional, trained, vetted, certified, et cetera, super duper experienced expert is worth everything, and they are available, and it's not impossible nowadays. I mean, the internet lets us make connections that we just dreamed of in the past. So number 3, the editor is wrong for you if they have no expertise in the editing stage and process. And ProWritingAid and First Editing and Fictionary, we put together an ebook called Your Editing Journey. You can download it here. I'm sure Michelle can throw the link in here. But please read that and understand the different levels of editing, because it's very important to understand that different editors have different skills for different stages in the editing process. So, get a guide, somebody who's experienced and knowledgeable and specializes in the things that you need at the time that you need them in the way that you want them. That's really good. So there are 4 stages of editing: structural editing, the content editing, which can be a combination of those with your content editors, line editing, which happens after that, and then of course your last and your final edit, which is the copy edit prior to going into formatting. And then of course people always talk about proofreading, but that's really after it's been uploaded and it's into your formatted text there. So if you aren't familiar with those, I know we're going to have some new people out there. We've done some 4 levels of editing. You can look here in the self-editing school. Please click on that or go over to the YouTube channel and join there, because we did differentiating those, and I'm not going to dig into them today, or contact me later and I'll send you the handouts for those. No worries. So, a structural edit, a content edit, line edit, they're all going to be corrections made in the track changes that you will individually review and accept. So never accept all, never, never, never. Ultimately, it's your voice, it's your document, it's your reputation on the line. So make sure that you feel confident in accepting and that you understand, because really this is an opportunity, and you can learn so much from an editor. And the great thing is you don't learn editing to become an editor. You learn editing and you become a better writer, because it's just the same way. The more you read, the better writing you also do. So it's really important there. Check the embedded notes and feedback from your editor, and please take note of their recommendations. They will always have a valid reason that they're providing these. And if not, you should ask them. And of course, they can tell you more. Let's see. They have the training and publishing experience. They apply this method for correcting your book, and you really want to follow that as you go along. And they're going to use a system. In the last 2 years, we have certified all of our fiction editors in something called Story Coach editing. And it's a structural editing process that uses a very objective approach. It's taking the knowledge that we have today and putting it into a refined, very specific process so that nothing is overlooked. And that doesn't take away the artistic value of what the editors are doing. What it does is it makes sure that nothing is overlooked. And because they're quickly checking off those lists, they can listen more to their senses and their subjective responses to your writing to give you better feedback in that method. So, and as we move over from fiction, then we have nonfiction, and we have a lot of pre-writing and pre-editing questions and coaching that's available there to figure out, why you're writing, what was the purpose, what is your desired response, how are you motivating and doing that in the same way that you do for research. You're trying to get through an approval from a review board, or to get the editor of a journal to admit your research into that particular publication. It's really, really vital that you have an experienced, knowledgeable, and successful editor who can walk you through this process and help you overcome the challenges that are naturally and intentionally put there to qualify you. It's not just can you, it's show us that you can, show us that you deserve the audience that you are trying to approach. So again, make sure that, and we use a lot of objective processes to do the editing nowadays, and it's super, super important. So let's see here. You're going to check the tone and the style when you go into your line editing. We're making sure that the consistency, after we've done those high-end ones, then we're going to move down into the line editing, quickly moving through this, the tone, the style, the consistency, and making sure that it reads smoothly and professionally, and that it doesn't get thrown on the slush pile immediately, So again, make sure that you're getting help from an editor that you know has had success in the past. And then, of course, copy editing is that final one. It's more of your syntax. It's the grammar, spelling, punctuation, and they're reviewing the presentation and the style the last bit around. But you have a specific specialized editor for each of these different phases of editing. So make sure that you have the right person doing the right thing at the right time. So they need to have the experience and knowledge, the certification, the advanced training, and the specialization. Many editors now join professional affiliations, or they're represented by a company, whatever it may be. And of course, you need to see and know and be able to view personally and confidently see that they've had success in that. And again, if they're not willing to show you an example, a sample, or do something for you personally to prove it, I would not trust them. So the editor is wrong for you if they have no training, and that would be the certification as an editor. You know, our editors you have people who've gone to English training in the university and things like that. You have PhDs who've been through the editing process. But then there's also always this continual education that you can do for a professional manner, or even just for your own personal development / career development there. And you really want to have somebody who not only can do the editing, but is inspired and loves it and really jumps in and gets to jump in and be the editor that you want and need to get you through a pretty rough time. Most people, I mean, they yeah, I finished my book, woohoo. Well, you just open the next door, and the next door in this labyrinth is the editing process, which is a whole huge process in itself. So make sure you have a guide, somebody who's professionally trained and certified to get you through all the processes there. Because if you have the right person, they're going to be able to tell you what you need. And that's based upon reviewing your document, looking at it, assessing where it is in the skills and the challenges, syntax, all those different things that are happening based on the rules that we have no control over in the English language. And then they're going to clarify what you want. When you submit your document, when you contact an editor, you may not have a complete idea of what you need, but I'm pretty sure you have a gut feeling of what you want. And of course, that's why we have self-editing school. It allows you to better communicate with your editor and to understand that there are words for these desires. You know, if you really want to, you know, if you're writing a nonfiction and you want to build your audience from this book, then you've got to have call to actions inside of it. You've got to have links that come back to your marketing. You've got to have a funnel built into your writing. And if you don't know these things, your editor does. So, but if you know them and you can convey them and you say, you know, I started the funnel, but I'm not really sure. I think people are falling out in the middle of the funnel. That helps them to evaluate your writing and your objectives. In the same way with the fiction, you know, you have your story arc, and is it developing, and you feel like, you know, I'm not really sure when my conflict or my resolution, how did this come out? And if you can clearly state that, or at least address that in a mindful way, then the editor can better help you achieve your goals. And in the same way, when you're presenting your academics, that is going, you know, did I support my theory statement, my dissertation, and my thesis statement in the proper way? So also, you can identify which stage of writing and editing you're in. And what that means is, how deeply have you self-edited prior to coming to the editor? If you feel that you have completely finished and completed your structural edit and you have a tight presentation, then you can say that, and they can briefly review it and say, yes, okay, you're ready for it, or whoa, no, we need to go back. I would like to talk about these specific areas and chapters, your word count, the balance, the presentation, etc. And you'll get confirmation or feedback letting you know why it's different than what you think. And that's very important. If you have an editor who is not aware of the different editing stages and the different types and specialties that they need, there's no way they can edit your book or your writing in any way satisfactory to what you will need. So again, these are just basic traits that every editor should have, and they're out there. Again, we're talking about this because, you know, we're sitting in the middle of pandemic, folks, and everyone's working and online. It's the gig economy, nomadic life, yada, yada. You know, working from home, self-employed, everybody wants to claim that. But just setting up a website and saying, I can do it for you is not enough. You really need to have experience and proof and training. And, you know, that's a great thing. I feel like we're really blessed here at First Editing. We have a team of editors who, you know, if at any point they need help, they have a community, a professional, trained, a really high level vetted community that they can, you know, pass ideas around and clarify and confirm before they submit the back. And I think it's difficult right now because there's so much noise out there. We don't know who to listen to. And so really make sure you're getting that. The professional recommendations you're going to get from the editor are always going to be based on your needs. That's again, back to your manuscript, on which level of editing you're at, the editing stage, and then of course, what you describe to your editor, what you say that you need or want, or, you know, and they'll be able to, if you kind of lightly describe it, they'll be able to tell you exactly what it is you're referring to and help you achieve that a little bit more. So look through those. Again, the handout is available. We're going to send you that link. You can download all this. There are live links in there. If you want to know more about any of these types of editors, click on the links and they'll take you there. You can read a lot more, or call us or email us and we'll go into it more. We've been through it many times. And again, I'm just going to repeat, we did do the 4 levels of editing, the 4 different stages of editing. So please review that webinar, self-editing school that we produced. It's here on ProWritingAid. And again, you can go more in depth with this if you're still not clear. And if you don't know, just send us part of your document. We'll tell you where you are. So it's no problem. And or any other editor you approach, they should be able to tell you too. So the editor's wrong for you if they have no samples. Again, I just find it hilarious. People say, oh, I can't share that with you. I get people who come and apply to work at our business and say, you know, I don't have anything to share with you. I'm like, how am I gonna hire you folks? You know, you got to show me something. And it just doesn't work that way. They should have proud and excited references. And most, if you help somebody become a bestseller, you help somebody achieve that self-publishing dream or find an agent, whatever it may be, they are going to tell the world. So it doesn't take much. If you've done your job and you've done it well, they're going to have references. They're going to have people who will gladly say, yeah, they edited my book. Take a look. So as a writer, as an author, ask for a sample of their editing work. That means, you know, they can show you examples of other work they've done, different levels, different styles, different, the genre that's appropriate to you, whatever you may be. They should always have testimonials or references that you can either read or contact or, you know, read, I mean, like read the whole book too, whatever you may be. And then of course, samples. And I think that it's really, the most important thing is to get that free sample of your writing, because that is where, you know, the dating, the matching, the clicking happens. You know, if you read it and you think, oh, you know, and they comment, I really like this, but you're really struggling here, and this is an area that we're going to need to address, and you feel like they care and they're involved and they understand what you're doing, then that's a good match. And that's just kind of, you can't put a value on that. It's just so important to find the right editor, because it really is a consultant, a coach, a friend who's there with you from step 1 to the very end. So get an example of their writing on your, get an example of their editing on your writing specifically. That is the ultimate litmus test in this situation. So I advise it. Here's a link here if you want to test us out. So editors communicate and edit differently. So they're going to communicate and edit differently based upon what you need and where you are and what you want, but also what your expectations are. If you send in your instructions and you say, hey, I want, I've done all this myself and I just want you to verify, or you get somebody else who says, structural editing's hard. And I heard you guys can, pretty much do all of the stuff that I would have to do myself. Can you do it for me? And we'll do a 2-part back and forth. Can I have a story coach who's certified to do all that work? That's a big difference. And it's totally available. And ironically, the prices are pretty much the same. So, it's just how you want to engage this person and qualify through it. So you want to make sure you're a good match for each of the ones. You want to make sure that they understand your needs and your wants. And then any of the other services, editors can provide a lot more than just editing, formatting and, authors' bios and different things like that. So just really critiques and reviews and consultations, plagiary checks, all of these things are available there. So if you are searching for those, if they can't provide it, I would say, but we have a lot of contacts and we can connect you with somebody that we trust. And it has quite a bit of value. Searching can take a lot of energy, folks. So they want to know what your expectations are. Do you want to do the revisions yourself? Do you want us to, to do some rewrites, like up to 20% of the document? What is it that you want, need? What can you promise yourself, and what can you commit to in this relationship? And I think that's very important. So we're trying to make sure we see the red flags of a bad editor, but we also need, the editor's kind of evaluating you too. So we want to know what your expectations are, and then they should be able to confirm or deny that they can fulfill those obligations or requests that you have. So, what is the editor promising? If they're making a lot of promises, make sure you have it written down in some presentation so that, that they deliver on those. So that's very, very important. So again, get a sample to work. The editor is wrong for you if they don't have standard operating procedures. It's a red flag because it means they're not doing this day in and day out. It means that this is a side gig for them. It means that they are still new, and that can have different results. It doesn't always end badly, but it's just got to ask yourself, do you want to take that chance? So get a detailed outline of their editing and what they're going to provide with you and when they're going to give it, what it's going to include, what it's not going to include. It's always good when somebody says, you know what, we don't do that. You think, wow, but they were very clear, and you can respect them more. Somebody who says yes to everything, it's a little bit harder to go forward with that. So they should know the 4 stages of editing and which level you need and what they're going to deliver, and then clearly be able to identify and specify that. So the deliverables can include additional services, summary letters, critiques, different kinds of support, a second level of copy editing after you do your revisions. It may include a story arc, the word counts, a scene analysis, and things like that. The different story maps, evaluations, surveys that they perform, and of course, a report of what they provided. And the software and the format delivery is very important. It should be in track changes at some point. But if it has embedded notes, embedded feedback, professional summary letter, all of those are super, super important. And how are you going to communicate with them? Because communication is very important, but it's also very expensive because it's more time spent out of that. And editors can proceed very rapidly and very efficiently and almost magically in their editing abilities. But if you want a consultation, it's ideal to do that before. Or if you want to follow up afterwards to discuss the different changes they made and why, it's good to determine that at the beginning, because then the editor can plan for that more effectively and better deliver overall. So again, these are things to think about and put in your list of desires. Editor's wrong if they're not providing a guarantee. And we mentioned this, but the services they provide, they really need to provide a guarantee in terms of, what is their policy if you find a mistake? And we're talking about humans here. Heck, you get errors from a software and an algorithm. Humans are still, humans are still humans. So if that errors are found and if they're there and it's not, how are they going to deal with that? What's the process? And if they say, well, I'll just fix it, yeah. How quickly? Where are you on their priority list if you've already paid? They should have a process for that. The corrections and revisions, and then, do they have a history of happy clients? And does that include clients who weren't so happy to begin with? Everybody has somebody who just never could make me happy. I mean, you can search us and there's, I can tell you that people, and some people just get so frustrated, they shut down and you don't get to communicate anymore. And it's kind of unresolvable. And that's really, really sad. But if you have a long history and experience and you do your best and sometimes things go wrong and you fix it, that says a lot for the ethics and the work value and the, who they are. So, and I think that's important because we're talking about relationships here, and that's a guarantee. So look through and see what their experience is and how well they've done. And, do they have an editing satisfaction guarantee? Make sure that you know how they're going to deal with it. So is the editor wrong for you? If they don't, the editor is wrong for you if they have no established prices. And by established prices, I mean that they can give you a price quote before you start that's dependable. And it's going to be based on different ways of doing that. So, here we do price per word and the level of editing. So that's pretty easy to calculate for us, and then any extra add-ons, etc. So an evaluation of what you need and what you want and what you're asking. But again, we have the luxury of, having client managers who come in and basically make sure that the editor is providing that and it's all clear. And but when you're out there hiring an individual who is working day in and day out, they may charge differently. And that could be an hourly rate. If you're going to pay an hourly rate, how much is that going to cost? Because funny enough, when somebody has to, gets paid by the hour, they're not in a rush. It's called job security. So beware, be careful. They have a flat fee for the project. That's very good if they have an experience of doing that. But if they hesitate and then they throw a number out there, beware. I'm not talking about editing here, but I've had some repairs and renovations in my home, and I've had many a laborer who just disappeared because they didn't know how to price it. So you have to, if something goes wrong, be open if there was an underestimate. But a professional has experience of underpricing and overpricing, and they know where the sweet spot is to satisfy you and to cover their expenses and still be a professional who can feed their family, etc. So be aware of that. And of course, make sure that their pricing that they're discussing with you is based upon the editing level that you need and want. So that's pretty important. And again, we just can't get around talking about money because editing is the largest and most important investment in your writing. So make sure you're getting the best that you can. The reason why we do self-editing school is because editing is connected with ProWritingAid, but also it's not a cheap service in any way, shape, or form. So therefore, you need to know what to expect, and you should have an understanding of the process. And most people here are people who love to learn. That's why we're here. That's why we're talking. So download the ebook. It's available on ProWritingAid, or you can click on it. We have it on our website also. But ProWritingAid, they can click the link in there and you can download it, read it at your convenience. It took us a while to put that together. So if they don't have timelines on the delivery, that would be a red flag for a bad editor, because they should have a good idea of how long a certain length, certain document, and after they should review your writing skills and the level of your writing and where it is, and then they should be able to accurately define that, and then they should be able to live up to their promises. That's very, very important. So there are more editing services that you can add on, and that will increase the time delivery, like we mentioned, the critiques and reviews and the consultations and the biographies and different things. the final proofreads, the follow-ups, but it depends if you're looking for a whole, wrap up of services, or if you're just trying to get this phase of editing. And one phase of editing, there should definitely be a very specific timeline that they deliver on. And then lastly, we mentioned you have to click. You just need to really understand. I encourage you to get a sample of their work on your writing so you feel confident. It should be professional, it should be respectful, it should be helpful, and the feedback should be specific, something that you can put to use and you understand what they're saying. And that's very important in today's world. So have them show you the work in advance, all these different things. This is what we're talking about, what you're looking for. And I'm just going to kind of scroll down all these so I can answer your questions. I don't want to waste the time here. So again, these are available for download if you'd like to, but you always want to work with an editor that you like, and most importantly, that you trust. Sometimes it's okay to work with somebody you don't particularly like the way they are. We have a private coach, and you can have a book coach, but if you have a private coach when you go to the gym, sometimes you don't love them as much as you think you're going to, but you respect their intent and their commitment to you and your intent and commitment by working with them. So again, that's very, very important. There's key elements. They're going to look at the word counts, and these are just different little things that you can look for, and you'll know, they're a professional. They know what they're doing. So again, stick with this. Professional summary letters will tell you what you do well, and also tell you what you need to change and why. And that's a very important part of editing in today's world. So with all of this, let me just look at that. This is the final 10 points there. Take a look, and I'm going to go to our questions. Experience, knowledge, certifications, affiliations, and success. So if you'd like to download this, please let us know. You can reach out, call us, or email us. All right, guys, I am switching over to our, let me get there we are, Q&A. All right. How can you evaluate if they have expertise? Again, asking for that. And let me see here. Asking for their background, their references, their success. This is really going to show their expertise. And when you give them your document, you should be able to see that and understand what it is that you're looking at. And they'll be able to explain why. And if you have trouble communicating with them, that's just really an indication in itself. And sometimes it may not be their fault. It may just be the way that you communicate. I'm a person like that. I communicate a lot, over communicate. But ultimately, you need to have the right person for you. And that's what you have to be committed to. So just be persistent, and we'll see where it goes. All right. Yes, we're answering this one. Is it too much to expect an editor to articulate why they think doing something a certain way will work better? No, it is not too much to expect. But of course, depending upon the level of editing that you're getting, it's ideal if you have questions. And again, you can always schedule a follow-up, a consultation, some kind of work there. And that would be really, really important to allow you to discuss those things. But when editors make specific recommendations, they will normally include that in the notes and in their professional summary letter, and they will outline what they think you could do better and why. And they should be also showing you kind of how to do that. And that's part of the learning and beauty of working with a professional, coach or editor who can really help you not only understand, but to perform and achieve the changes that we're looking for there. So I think, yes, it's not too much to expect at all. Yes, you should have those expectations. Yes, you should clearly write them out and include as many questions and concerns that you have up front, because you will be happier in the overall results ultimately. Do you have a copy editor? Do you have a copy editor if that's what you need most? If you need most, a copy editor, yes, ultimately, I think you want to have somebody separate, a professional. Whoever does your structural edit should not be doing your copy edit, because there are different types of editing. And also, you don't want them to be too familiar with your work. It is advisable and beneficial to you to get fresh, new professional eyes who are not getting caught up in knowing the story and reading along, because that's what you're doing. And your brain just naturally skips over it. We have these magical brains that can do so much, and yet they also just fill in blanks naturally for us, which means sometimes we don't see the mistakes there. So again, if you need a copy editor, yes, I do recommend that you at minimum have a professional copy editor. A line editor can, but send in your document and the editor can tell you what you need and what you should order according to what your wants are there. So I hope that answers. Sorry, I didn't press that up. There's the question itself. All right. Is an upfront payment for editing normal, or is that a red flag too? No, I don't think so. I mean, you got to understand, people are doing jobs nowadays that you put an upfront deposit or you pay in advance on many services out there. So that's not a red flag in any way, shape, or form. What would be bad is if you pay up front and then you don't get what you paid for and they disappear. That's a flag. But again, if you do your research in terms of their experience and their, simple things like Better Business Bureau ratings and online reviews and length of experience and qualities and satisfaction guarantees, those are all validators and trust factors that are put up there to help you feel more confident. And of course, today's world, you always have, 95% of the time or more, 99% of the time, you're paying by credit card. So there are built-in security nets there for you. So again, that's pretty important if you have those worries, but I wouldn't get caught up on that as much as what their capabilities are. Can you clarify the style? Yes, your editor can do that for you, and you should include that in your questions. I'm trying to be quickly. Please don't think I'm shortening it. I'm just trying to answer. We have a lot of questions here. Okay, I've got somebody who has an experience with our administrator and our editor, and I will keep your email here. I'm not going to make it public, and we will get back to you. So the evaluation and recommendations, again, we are one of many companies out there, and of course we want to do the best for you, but if it doesn't work for you, it doesn't work for you. You will find another person along the way, and that's not being insensitive. It's really wanting you to have what's best for you, because again, we'll do our best to fulfill that, but we try to prove that before we engage. If we're not able to deliver what you need, then you need to find somebody who can clearly do that and get what you need out there. So again, please, and I'll be in touch there, Jerry. So if someone hires a book coach, do they still need an editor? I think so, but my friend disagrees. I'm going to put that there live. Anonymous. Yes. If you hire a book coach, that's part of the writing process. But again, book coaches vary in so much, and we don't even know if you're doing a fiction, nonfiction, or whichever you're dealing with there. But do you still need an editor? Yes. Absolutely, I would. There are companies out there that try to promise it all in a box, and that they may have in-house editing, and that would be sufficient in itself, but they're probably not going to have the same person who's coaching you editing. It just depends upon what they're processing. So I can't tell you yes and no 100%, but I can say that I feel strongly that having a separate editor from your coach is probably always going to be the best if you're capable of taking that that luxury and doing that. Absolutely. So regardless, in the end, you do want to have a final edit, which would be your copy edit or line edit after book coaching. Book coaching is normally a much higher level. So after you get to the lower point, then you're going to want to go ahead and proceed with that final edit there. Is it too much to expect an editor to articulate why they think doing something a certain way will work better? No. Answer that question twice. yes, you can have that expectation, but please make sure you communicate clearly at the beginning end, because we need to be respectful on both sides of how we communicate and how much we need to answer on those. So yes, if you have questions, just ask them. You should always ask. There's no bad questions there. Where do you suggest an editor get a certification? Okay, so next chapter, editing. Yes, there's several ones out there. There are online universities. Depends if you're, if you're doing which level or what type of editing, fiction, nonfiction, academic or research, PhDs, they have their own situations going on there. And then we have the nonfiction, which is very unique, and most of the editing happens at the very, very front in the writing and outlining stage. And then what we have used, and we are the world's first certified enterprise with a whole team of certified story coaches, and that's from Fictionary, which ProWritingAid, and we've all worked together, and they actually complement very well into ProWritingAid, is Fictionary, and you can check them out. They, some people who are not even seeking to become professional editors, but want to just understand the whole process, take that certification. It's great. It's fantastic. Christina, check us out online. We have a whole 38 story element series that we've done together. And we do monthly series, and we'll have another one coming up very, very soon. So I would recommend Fictionary for the fiction certifications for story editing. It's called a Story Coach. And with the nonfiction, it's a little bit more. There's not as many that it's a much more complicated situation that we've pieced together. And then there's loads of online courses in universities, which are always, always good. And there's a lot of learning. Just depends what your budget is and where you want to go. Okay, and we're running out of time. I have 1 minute. So if I don't get to your questions, I apologize. What if you feel like your editor is making a mistake? I had an argument with an editor once regarding commas separating two-part compound predicates joined via coordinating conjunction. Wow, you like your stuff. Well, then, many editors have different ways and reasons. Just make sure that they can back it with the rules of syntax, and you can also. And ultimately, it's your book. You get to choose. Even if they know they're right, you can always say, no, I can proceed in your personal house style. So that's fine. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm just saying it's fine. You get to choose. And I'm interested in working with an editor who will return what I need to work on grammar, blah, 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 as opposed to a publishable product. Is this done? Does it have a name? Yes, it's editing, and just include that in your questions and your specific instructions, and contact us. We'll be glad to answer those more. Wow.
Thank you so much, JoEllen. That was great. So much information packed into that hour.
Yes.
We answered a lot of questions. If we didn't get to it, I apologize. If you have any questions about ProWritingAid, feel free to email hello@ProWritingAid.com, and our support team will be happy to chat with you. And JoEllen's contact information for first editing is in the chat as well, with the rest of the links. And this recording will be up on our YouTube channel, ProWritingAid TV, within 24 hours, if you would like to catch that again. So thank you, JoEllen, again, and thank you to everybody that came today. We had a great time.
Thank you, guys. I'm glad to see you all here again. Talk again next month.